Right. I want to do a little bit of an introductory course on how to get better at Age of Empires and how to get better at memeing, which also means getting better at the fundamentals. In this video, I want to focus specifically on 4 areas, and if you guys like this video, then maybe I will make additional ones about how to improve your Age of Empires skills. I found 4 things very helpful when I was starting off Age of Empires. 1, improving speed. 2, learning about continual production. 3, build orders. And 4, game recognition. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about each one of these things and going into more depth on how you can improve these elements of your game. And we're gonna do different scenarios and stuff like that. But without further ado, let's just jump into it. So in terms of speed, I think there's a bunch of things that are very important. 1, hotkeys. Now when I grab a villager over here, I can do the build, and then I can click the house button, and then I can place the house, which is relatively slow. If I'm doing everything with the mouse, that's going to take forever. A lot of you are already aware of that. So instead what I do is I do boop boop. That's an AQ for me, and that places a house. That's a lot faster than me doing this, and that's already improving speed in a lot of ways. So frequently used keys is definitely something that you want to be using in your hotkeys. Now, I'm going to show you guys the hotkeys that I find useful for myself in case you want to take them down. There's a lot of these I don't actually use. Like, I don't even know what my repair hotkey is, but I do know my garrison hotkey, and I do know my house hotkey and my pause hotkey and these kind of things because I use them all the time. So you have to determine. I don't even know my castle hotkey. I still click normal for a castle. Town centers I know because I delete my town centers all the time. Another useful thing is that you can select all of your buildings here. I personally don't like that. I don't actually know what all my stables is. I actually control group all my stables together. I feel like that gives me more control. You can cycle through your different camps, and that is useful, and you can even put hotkeys for your upgrades. I don't even bother with that. I mostly bother with these over here. Making control groups seems to really work for me well. Scroll commands, don't really use those either. Specking commands, don't even know about those. I do have some of these that I recognize. For example, stop I recognize. Aggressive stance can be useful. Sometimes patrol can be pretty useful. I use that one all the time. So I have that available to me. That's what A is building for me. A is constructing all of the units and whatnot for me as well. My first menu to open. This is very important to construct different things. So I'm using AQSD a lot. So my most essential buildings are over here that I use for my hotkeys, and you can use what is nice for you. So you can see here if I press A, and then this top line over here is going to be Q, W, E, because it makes sense to me logically, and then R, and then T. I don't really use T that much, and I just happen to know that F is my thing, so that's the line below. A is something that you use very frequently, so if I want to drop down a farm, I'll just go AA. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that, but if I just drop out a mill, so I could drop down a mill like this, or if I do with my hotkeys, I just go DUP, and I got it. And then if I want to drop farms, my farm dropping is really fast. My wife is like dinner. I'm teaching people how to play Age of Empires better, okay? I understand. I'll be there soon, honey.
No, no food. You want me order?
Oh, order food? Pizza, let's go!
Now?
Yes. Ordering food is also faster sometimes than cooking food yourself, which is very favorable, especially after a long day of work. Remember, that time efficiency doesn't just translate in Age of Empires, but in your real life as well. And sometimes when you're having a hard day, that's exactly what you need. So now I have 60 wood in the bank. What I can do is I can go click, click, click to drop a farm. Or if I want to know that I want to drop my farm over here. So much faster in my opinion to do that. Alright, there's a couple other things, but let's just quickly go through the rest of the hotkeys. This one you will use a lot. Things like castles, crepos, and universities and stuff like that. Wonders, you probably don't need to know a hotkey for. This one's quite useful as well. How are you going to make a villager? Well, once again, I'm using ASD a lot and QWE. So having that over here is very, very useful to me. I don't even know what loom I have. I don't know what age up is. I still click that naturally because it's not things that I use very, very frequently. And then all of my units that I produce frequently is A or S. A being the first one, men at arm. S being the second one, spearmen. And that works for me. You need to do what works for you and practice that. Same with archers. A for archers, S for skirmishers. Do I know the other hand cannoneers? I have no idea that that's F. I never make hand cannoneers, but if I do use hand cannoneers, I can just hover above it and know, oh, it's F. Okay, well, that's kind of on that same line of my keyboard, and that's quite useful to me. Sable, same thing. A for scout. I don't even need to look over here. A for scout, S for knight. That's what I need. Do I know that Step Lancer Z? No idea. Do I have camo here as well? Camo rider, F. I have no idea that that's F. I never make camos. But if I wanted this to be a little bit better, maybe I would put it on D as well. But then you have a problem with battle elephants overlapping. And you kind of got to figure that out for yourself. Which one do you prefer being on D and which one do you prefer being on F in that situation? Same thing in the Siege Workshop. A for the first unit that can be produced, which is the battering ram. S for the second unit that can be produced, which is the mangonel, and scorpion D. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Everything is ASD, ASD, ASD. Monastery. Wonder what the monk is going to be. A. Market. I don't think I have hotkeys set for the market, but you can do some pretty fun tricks with buy selling. So same thing for the unique unit. What do you think is going to be the unique unit? A. What about the second thing that you always make? Trep, 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 trep. How about petards? D, 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 D. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. What works for D? Yeah. And then these I don't really use at all. I don't even know gate commands. I probably should do that so I can be like the Viper. But it's fast enough to get me to 1900 elo with villager fighting. Now, what else is going to improve your speed? Well, one thing that you can do is improve the speed of resource collecting. For example, a sheep has a slower collection rate than, for example, a boar. Knowing that and taking your high target food values is important. Actually, shorefish is the fastest food that you can possibly collect with villagers, but slower for fishing ships. They actually benefit from fishing from deep fish, not from shorefish. And that can make a big difference in what you're able to produce if you're fishing from the wrong resource. Or if you're hunting from the wrong resource. If you have a very tight build, it's better, I find, to go for those high collection food rates. By the by, boars, elephants, deer, rhino, ibex, all hunt. Same collection rate. Mongols also benefit from the same collection rate for all of those. Another way that you can speed up collection rates is by means of getting upgrades like double bid axe. It doesn't help for the farms, doesn't speed up your farm collection rate, but it does allow more food to be there. Gold mining and stone mining do increase the amount of stuff you collect, how fast you collect it. And ultimately, I think just practicing these hotkeys and practicing things like control groups really helps me out. So control groups are relatively simple. All you need to do is you control group, control, and then 1. Now I have my scout. This is very beginner. Oh, and shift click is so helpful with speed as well, because now I can do other things, and this will really speed up my overall gameplay. I also find it very, very useful to go to TC. So for example, if I click 1 now, I'll go immediately to my scout. I'm not moving my mouse at all. And then if I press H, I don't know why I like H, but it kind of feels natural on my hand. You can use whatever hotkey you would like. I can go straight back to my town center, press 1, back to my scout. And if my scout and my TC are far away, okay, Vil, and then, okay, back to scout. So that way I can make sure that my scout doesn't run into the TC. I'm definitely going to still run into the TC, but that's beside the point. And this will really help you with speed overall. Or if I had another army, let's say for example I wanted these villagers over here that I wanted to field fight with, I'll oftentimes make them a control group as well, and that way I can jump between boop, my scout, and then I want to go to my TC to make villagers, okay, boop, and then I want to go to those forward attacking villagers, okay, I'm over here, and my scout went to the wrong direction, okay, put him in the right path, and then 2, okay, more villagers need to be produced, and that will really, really help you out in terms of speed, because ultimately this is a real-time strategy game and speed is going to be very, very important. Practice makes perfect, but you have to actively practice doing things. When I was trying to do a house and stuff like that, what I did was I just gave myself infinite wood, and then I would go, okay, house, okay, mill, okay, don't have the wood for that, okay, farm, okay, now let's go monastery, I can't build that building yet. Also, you want to have your palisade walls very, very accessible. For myself, I like, for whatever reason, I don't know why I like this, just like I have H for town center. So because I'm near the town center a lot, because I want to click H, I also have G as my hotkey. So I go A for construction, and then G is actually palisade, which is on the second page, but since there's nothing else assigned to G, it will immediately make the palisade for me. Interestingly enough, when I go to feudal age, and you can see this in some of my recordings, I do not have a hotkey for palisades anymore. I don't know, it's good enough for me. You know, it's all about like the amount of time that you want to put into mastering your hotkeys. Okay, so enough about speed. We're actually going to jump into continual production, because another thing that's going to help you out a lot is going to be able to continuously produce units. That's why we're jumping back to this TC, is in order to continuously produce. What do I mean by continual production? Well, I'm going to jump into a skirmish, and I'm going to go for a Empire's War. Nope. Let's keep it on Arabia. Let's keep the same settings. Actually, let's go with resources as high. And we're going to pick a different civ this time. I'm going Japanese. Yeah, I'm going Japanese. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull off absolutely everybody. Now, in order to continuously produce villagers, we're going to need 6 on food. So that's simple enough. That can be any food source, by the way. And technically, if you have wheelbarrow and stuff like that, and upgrades, you can potentially do it with less. There are apps online that will let you know exactly how much you need to produce a certain unit. Knights, what I always like to remember is 7 on gold, 6 on food. That will continuously get me knights. And that can really add up on your food cost if you're also spending 6 on food to continuously produce villagers. There's also one-time cost versus multiple-time costs. So for example, if I'm making a archery range, that's a one-time cost, right? But I still need additional villagers on wood to compensate for constructing that one time. Once I have all my buildings out that I need, I might want to switch my villagers up a little bit to be able to continuously produce. Okay, for example, let's say I have a whole bunch of stables. I just want to waste my wood here, right? In order to continuously produce archers, especially 2 stable archers, what I'm going to need is 4 on gold and 2 on wood, right? And you can once again look up all of these online on what exactly you need in order to do that. So now I should be able to continuously produce archers. Great. However, if I'm ever wanting to add an additional range to this, it's not enough to just put 2 more villagers on wood and 4 more villagers on gold. Yes, I can now continuously produce from 2 ranges, but I don't have my second range. So what I like to do is I like to put like 3 or 4 more than what I actually need, and then I'll be able to construct for another range and be able to produce from them continuously. And then once that's done, I know that I only need 4 on that. I have 9 total, so I can put 5 to another resource. Simple enough, right? I could also just cancel some of these in order to make sure that I have the wood faster, but then I'm not producing from the range. It's always good to continuously produce, especially with villagers. And you can see how fast I'm actually already able to get my second range out while still producing archers from the one range. I don't know why I picked archers, but it's just kind of straightforward. And then if I wanted to have villager production continuously as well, I would need 6 on that. Maybe I want 7 so that I can also pick up fletching and the armor eventually and yada yada blah blah. Now I can just construct my archery range, keep producing archers this entire time. And now what I like to do, so that I'm not constantly clicking on the archery range to produce archers, is actually make them a control group. And we should be able to easily continuously produce archers from the archer range. We have too many on wood, so those villagers can now go to something else. For example, they could go to build my houses. There we go. House forever. Don't get house. That is another pro tip right there. And then these guys, once they're done, they can go somewhere else, and we will still be able to continuously produce archers. Maybe you want 1 more so that you can make houses and stuff like that, but you get the general idea. Continual production is very, very important. You want to limit idle time. Another thing that you want to do in Dark Age is to limit because 6 on food does get you villagers continuously. However, you might be in a situation where you just don't have the amount of food. Let's say I need 1200 food here. I can force drop to, oh, that was nice. Force drop in order to make that extra villager. Fair enough. Easy enough. I think that's pretty good on continual production. Consider upgrades, obviously, as well. So if you have double bit axe, that's going to increase your wood cutting, and you might need less woodcutters. All of this, once again, you can find online. Survivalist has a really, really cool website for this. Deer versus farms. Farms actually has the fastest collection rate, talking about collection rates. And you can see how stuff is coming back from the previous point, which was speed. Farms actually are faster collection rates than others. So, for example, in the God of the Godless build, you actually make farms because they have the highest collection rate, and you push in all of your deer and you're getting bored. But that's not the point. You don't go berries because berries are kind of slow. Which actually brings me to my next point. Build orders. Learn a build order. Be it a meme, be it a fast castle build, build it a 21 pop archer build. I'm going to show you some crazy nutty footage right here of me going 21 pop archers. Never seen before. Sicilians 21 pop archers poop. Yeah, well, it's against an AI, so it doesn't count. I know it's not a meme, but I think for explanation purposes, this is quite good. So first of all, I want to show you here is not on regular speed. We are going to put this onto double speed. If you know anything about Age of Empires, it's 6 on food and 4 on wood. This is also very useful for a fast castle age build. And you can look up these builds online, but I like to keep things very, very simple. And you should learn build orders the way you like to learn build orders. I like to keep things very, very general. We have a great indication up here of how many villagers we have. I use this to determine my build order. 6 on food and then 4 on wood is what I require. And then the next villagers are all going to be food, 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 food in order to click up. I also need to construct 2 houses, and that's about all I know about the build. I don't want to overthink things. I don't want to think, oh, villager number 8 should go to the boar. Villager number 9 should go and get bear. No, keep it simple for yourself. Do what you can do. You're also scouting simultaneously. Hopefully he's on a control group and you've clicked him around. Maybe you want to scout out your opponent. Do what you can with your APMs. You want to be doing something the entire time, but build orders, I'm telling you, they help. Oh yeah, I need a mill. I need a second building in order to go up, and I probably want to be collecting food in the long term. That's also a big part of build orders, is realizing your short-term goals. What is required for me to go 21 pop up? What is required for me to go fast castle? Okay, I'm going to have to make either a market and a blacksmith in feudal age, or I could have a barracks and gain go stable market or stable blacksmith. And it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to have unupgraded knights, 27 of them? Or do you want to have upgraded knights and have less of them? So maybe then you go blacksmith stable instead of going stable market. Or maybe you don't want knights right away because you want to drop a castle and you're going to go more on stone. So keep these short-term goals in mind, and also keep your long-term goals in mind, because contact with the enemy is going to break things down. All of a sudden there's a scout over here. You were going to push in additional deer. You didn't manage to push in additional deer. You only pushed in 1. Simple. I clicked up to feudal. Oh, remember how I said that I'm going to need more than just 2 on wood to continuously produce archers and make the archery range? Well, we moved a couple over from food to wood. How many? I just eyeballed it. I just felt it. Oh, I still have over 6 on food, which is going to allow me to get fletching, padded armor, if I want it, and continue villager production as well as working towards castle age, because these guys are going to balance out my archers that I'm producing, and I have about 200. Yeah, I'm going to spend 50 on fletching, but ultimately, if I really need to, I can just make a newly constructed villager and make it go to gold to compensate for that. And that's that. This is continual archer production as well as continual villager production, 21 pop. You only have so many production buildings. You only have so many villagers that you can produce. Everybody should be at the same villager count at this point, 23. The AI is terrible. They're terrible at this game. They are not continuously producing villagers. You should, by all means, force drop if you need to. Look at the amount of idle TC time. Is it perfect? No, it's 11 seconds. But if you can limit your idle TC time, you're going to have a lot better time. Yeah, that's about it for builders. Short-term goals, long-term goals, adaptation. And this has to do with scouting as well, which is actually going to tie into the last one, which is game recognition. So one thing over here, if we look at what I can see certain things. I can see he hasn't taken his boar. He's probably not going to be up to feudal as fast. Another thing that you can recognize in a game is, oh, does he have an archery range? Is he on gold? If he's on gold with 4 villagers, like we talked about, that means that he can produce from 1 archer range. How is your meme strat going to be up against that? I had a great game the other day in which I was on hideout, and it was very clear that my opponent wanted to go for a fast castle. How do I know that? Because I spotted with my scout that he was going for a market and a blacksmith. So by denying the blacksmith, it bought me additional time in which he could not click up to castle, which then allowed me to take down his TC with Cuman feudal age rams. Knowing how many resources are on the map is also very, very important in recognizing Arabia has 3 deer, 4 sheep that are given to you, and 2 times 2 sheep that are on the outside. If they're cows, it's 2 cows, 1 cow. Well, I'm just pointing arbitrary location, and there's always going to be 2 boar or 2 rhino, 2 elephants. Elephants and rhino have slightly more food on them. Everybody gets a huge main gold on Arabia, and then they get several, I believe it is 3 side patches. So 1, 2, and then 3. And that should be the same as my opponent. And if you scout these out, you can know if they're going for archer. So it's 1. This is the main. 2. And 3. And game recognition is very, very important, because seeing this pile, let's say there's no villagers on here, seeing this pile can indicate, oh, I am close to my opponent's TC. And everybody gets 2 stone piles, a main pile and a small pile. And I believe there's like some neutrals as well. So this one would be considered a neutral, and this one is a neutral as well. Okay, let's see how that works in practice over here with a TC drop, or I don't know. What strat should we go for? Why don't we do the all-in Cumans here real quick? I know this is a slightly longer video, but I think by means of explaining these things and now putting everything together, it will hopefully be a good indication. Oh, I did not mean to do Empire Wars. I am bad at this game. And give me Arabia standard resources. So let's put everything together now. And I will try and describe what I'm doing to the best of my ability. So I'm hitting my hotkey for producing villagers first, then I'm making 2 houses. I know that I already created a little bit of idle time. I'm control grouping my scout because I'm going to be using that scout quite frequently. I'm putting food underneath my TC, and now we're going to be able to continuously produce villagers, as the first 6 are going to go to food. The build order that I want to use is I want to go 20 pop and up. In order to do that, I'm actually not going to go 4 to wood this time. I'm going to go for 3 to wood, and then I'm going to compensate for all of my missing wood as I'm going up to feudal. And you'll see that that is going to be a lot faster than me having 4 on wood, because I can simply click up faster. I'm going to want to push in my deer if I can possibly find my deer. That would be delightful. I always want to make sure that I have food underneath my TC. So even though that llama scouted there for a second, it immediately went back. I know I said 3 on food, but I'm actually going to put 1 additional on food first before I put my 3 onto food, because I don't really want to be going for berries. I want to be going for those high collection food rates. And now that we have 7, now we are going to go over to wood. I would have liked to have had a wood, so this game recognition right here next to the gold. This would have been a better wood line if I had spotted it. Sadly, that villager already walked over, and I don't want to readjust just because it's going to cost too much idle time. Making a decision is oftentimes better than hesitating about your decisions. We are force dropping, and there we have found deer now at this time. Force dropping to make sure that we can continuously produce. We're going to try and push in deer to the best of our ability. And game recognition, actually surprisingly, also has a lot to do with the mods that you have on. I don't know how some people play with big trees. I want to make sure that we have a deer in there if at all possible. Oh, sorry, a llama as a secondary food source. We are doing a terrible job pushing this in. And we know that at some point in the near future, we are going to need a house. Now I know that for this one, I'm not going to be using my farming space because I'm going to go all in cumin, double archery range with Jimmy Whatsits. You want to construct another house when you're about 1 to 2 pop away. That will always allow you to get another one. High collection food rates. We are messing up in terms of pushing in deer, so that's okay. You know what? We're just going to leave the deer for what it is. Mods. TC Orbit mod. I'm going to be able to find where my opponent is significantly easier due to that green indicator. Keep the villagers onto food is very good. And you know what? We need a mill at a certain point in case my food runs out. And we need a second building anyway. Actually, you know what? In the middle of a build, you can also redecide. And we are going to decide to go for a barracks instead. Because, you know what? We're going to all in this. And we're not going to need food because we're going to be using archers. We're going to be using rams and stuff like that. So, food be danged. We're just going to have the food under here. And that's probably going to be fine. We need another house because we're going to go for 20 pop. Yeah, it's fine. We don't need the house. We're just making decisions. General idea, big idea. We have small term goals, but we're focusing on the big idea overall. I'm purposely changing my decision making so that you guys can see what goes through my mind. Also, the situation might depend. Ooh, I saw red on the minimap. I tried to react immediately. Now we know that it's probably over here. So we're going to walk around and be able to scout out. Oop, a little bit of idle time. That's okay. Drop this off. Oop. Force drop a little bit more so that we can click up to the next age. You could have a hotkey for that, but I don't. Now we need way more on gold. And I don't want to lose that food that they're holding because, hey, free food is free food, right? At the end of the day. And we don't have enough for fletching. So I'm going to keep these two just so that I can get fletching for my archers. And I'm going to go forward with 2 villagers so that I can construct the archery range right up in my opponent's face. We have a lot of one-time costs that we can use. For example, we are going to need Siege Workshop, Blacksmith, Archery range. Kumans are great because they get a reduction. Knowing your civ bonuses is also probably a useful thing to be aware of. And you can see how messed up my lumber camp is, but it's fine. It's totally fine. Once again, I just have my scout on a hotkey. I didn't even know where he was. I just sending him to the black space so I can see where to go. Sneak archers, let's go. Oh, that's unfortunate. We got a Jimmy what's it. You know what? I would love to get one additional villager out. That would be great. Archer range. And we're going to go blacksmith first because we don't have the villagers on gold to continuously produce. And then we can also make the siege workshop to get the rams out. And then once we have all of our buildings, we'll move over. So drop off the free. Okay, now that's good. Now you go to gold. Oh, actually, I missed 2 food. It happens. And boom. Now rams are relatively heavy, but not that heavy. We mostly need gold. Boop, thank you very much. Now we can pick up fletching. Boop. We should be able to continuously produce from the archery range, but we also want to make sure that we have 160 wood. I know the cost of things. That's also kind of useful information to know. And notice how we have 9 and 9. 9, 9, 9. This is going to allow us, because we only need 8 technically, and we need to make houses here as well. Continuously produce archers. I might opt for another ram at a certain point, depending on the situation. Maybe I want to control group this as well. Maybe I want to control group my archers. Hey, guess what? We have a little bit of stone left. That's his main gold right here. Let's have the recognition to drop down a tower on his main gold, which is going to make it a lot harder for him to work. Oh, very nice. I do not know why these guys are spacing. Shoot those. We take those. Thank you very much. Anything worth taking down over here? No, it does not look like it. Keep going. Wow, AI, you've really improved. I know who's writing your code, but you can see how this is already very, very organized to a certain degree. I mean, I know it's a meme, ultimately, but... And let's see how far that ranges. That's another thing that you can do with the display. Oh no, we don't have a house. Well, you know what? Just drop down some houses. We need some of those anyway. And you know what? Let's cancel some of these. That way we can get out an additional ram. Put that over here. Put these guys in if he tries to... Oh. Just to shoot that down. Another thing that you can do, which is cheeky, is get behind the ram. That should actually protect the ram overall. Okay, that's fine. We're going to take that down. And they don't put up too much resistance, but like I could garrison over here. I have a garrison command. Keep repairing this, please. I want to keep that ram alive if we possibly can. Normally I would go for 2. 2 rams seems to be a pretty good number. That way it makes it a little bit harder for an opponent. We can continuously produce archers. And we have the pop space now. Ooh. The repairing is costing a little bit more, so maybe sometimes we won't be continuously producing, but more important to keep the ram alive. Now that we have 2 on there. Ooh! Ouch! And now we can kill all of these. Micro! Micro! I'm mostly just focusing on the front because my eco actually doesn't matter because it was an all-in push. So you can see how little I actually did at home. And this should be a pretty easy cleanup. So talking about mods and stuff like that, see how I was able to pinpoint the location of my opponent relatively easily due to the orbit mod. Placing the lumber camps is a lot easier with pine trees. Another thing that I find very, very useful is when you have these, right? Knowing which color they belong to. Because if you don't know who it belongs to, you can do some really cheeky tricks with that. For example, if you're both in the same position, you can delete one and then you can get through to your opponent's berries. Really useful for villager rushing. You also may have noticed from my game versus your game that I'm more zoomed out and that you can turn certain graphics on. I personally don't like certain graphics, but I could see how, for example, making a grid could be very, very useful. Health bars always on or a different color on, increasing your scroll piece, speed, inertia of the scroll. These things are things that you can play around with, but more so, I wanted to talk about the zoom here because I think the zoom is, where is it? Very, very important. Look at the difference here. This versus this. Spotting things and reacting to things is so much harder if you can only see this much. And now I don't see his main goal, right? But if I zoom out, oh, I can easily see his main goal. So I always have it at zoom out 100% because I want to spot more things. I want to know more information, and processing that information and making right decisions is all game recognition. Realizing that your opponent doesn't have wood for another lumber camp or another TC and keeping them off of wood. Dropping a TC on a wood line because you know that there's nowhere else but home at their lumber camp to collect wood for another TC so that you can make them G double G. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was useful. I hope this was interesting to you. And I hope this improves your overall gameplay. Don't let your memes just be dreams. And keep on walking. When you practice, actively practice to get better. That's how you get better. If you're just like, I'll just play games and I'll figure it out. I have seen people, you wouldn't believe, that have 10,000 total games that are 800, 900 elo. And not that there's anything wrong with being 8 or 900 elo, but I feel like if you're playing 10,000 games, wouldn't you want to increase in the elo bracket? How do you do that? Do you just do that by playing more games? I think no. I think it's by actively learning hotkeys because you have the best recognition in the world. If your speed isn't there, if you don't have continual unit production, if you don't have a good build order or aren't able to adapt if something goes wrong. And here, this build order and recognition also ties in one by one. Because, for example, let's say you recognize that you're going to get tower rushed, right? You're going to have to adapt your build order. What are you going to do to make sure that you can still get that final goal, even if it has to postpone your small time goal? Maybe you have to make additional houses so that they don't get in on key resources, and that's okay being slowed down because they're investing a lot into those towers. That was a mouthful. Memes, and dreams. Poop Lord out. Oh, look at that. Easy going. I guess we beat an easy AI. Why did we beat just an easy AI? Should have been extreme. Extreme.